The mystery, literally, is that religion is but a tool to control the masses. Knowledge, or wisdom, is their only God, through which man himself will become God. Wisdom is represented and has been represented throughout the history of the world as the serpent, the snake. Satan, Lucifer, the snake and the dragon are both symbols of wisdom. Lucifer is the personification of the symbol. It was Lucifer who tempted Eve to entice Adam to eat of the tree of knowledge. Tree of knowledge. Tree of knowledge. Nothing to do, ladies and gentlemen, with any apple. And thus free man from the bonds of ignorance.
It's Saturday, March 26th, 6:26 p.m. I'm going to read Chapter 15 of Part 3 of Book 4 of the Invocation. 1. In the straightforward or Protestant system of magic, there is very little to add to what has already been said. The magician addresses a direct petition to the being invoked, but the secret of success in invocation has not hitherto been disclosed. It is an exceedingly simple one. It is practically of no importance whatever that the invocation should be right. There are 1,000 different ways of compassing the end proposed, so far as external things are concerned. The whole secret may be summarized in these 4 words: inflame thyself in praying. This is Kabbalistically expressed in the old formula: Domine noster audi tuo servo, Kyrie Christ, O Christ. Latin: O our Lord, hear thy servant, O Lord Christ, O Christ. The mind must be exalted until it loses consciousness of self. The magician must be carried forward blindly by a force which, though in him and of him, is by no means that which he in his normal state of consciousness calls I. Just as the poet, the lover, the artist, is carried out of himself in a creative frenzy, so must it be for the magician. It is impossible to lay down rules for the obtaining of this special stimulus. To one, the mystery of the whole ceremony may appeal. Another may be moved by the strangeness of the words, even by the fact that the barbarous names are unintelligible to him. Sometimes, in the course of a ceremony, the true meaning of some barbarous name that has hitherto baffled his analysis may flash upon him, luminous and splendid, so that he is caught up into orgasm. The smell of a particular incense may excite him effectively, or perhaps the physical ecstasy of the magic dance. Every magician must compose his ceremony in such a manner as to produce a dramatic climax. At the moment when the excitement becomes ungovernable, when the whole conscious being of the magician undergoes a spiritual spasm, at that moment must he utter the supreme adjuration. One very effective method is to stop short, by a supreme effort of will, again and again on the very brink of that spasm, until a time arrives when the idea of exercising that will fails to occur. This forgetfulness must be complete. It is fatal to try to let oneself go consciously. Inhibition is no longer possible or even thinkable, and the whole being of the magician, no minutest atom saying nay, is irresistibly flung forth. In blinding light, amid the roar of 10,000 thunders, the union of God and man is consummated. If the magician is still seen standing in the circle, quietly pursuing his invocations, it is that all the conscious part of him so called has become detached from the true ego which lies behind that normal consciousness. But the circle is wholly filled with that divine essence. All else is but an accident and an illusion. The subsequent invocations, the gradual development and materialization of the force, require no effort. It is one great mistake of the beginner to concentrate his force upon the actual stated purpose of the ceremony. This mistake is the most frequent cause of failures in invocation. A corollary of this theorem is that the magician soon discards evocation almost altogether. Only rare circumstances demand any action whatever on the material plane. The magician devotes himself entirely to the invocation of a god, and as soon as his balance approaches perfection, he ceases to invoke any partial god, only that god vertically above him in his path. And so a man who perhaps took up magic merely with the idea of acquiring knowledge finds himself irrevocably committed to the performance of the great work. It will now be apparent that there is no distinction between magic and meditation, except of the most arbitrary and accidental kind. There is a great metaphysical antithesis that magic is the art of the will to live, mysticism of the will to die. But truth comes bubbling to my brain. Life and death are but one to him. 2. Besides these open methods, there are also a number of mental methods of invocation, of which we may give 3. The first method concerns the so-called astral body. The magician should practice the formation of this body as recommended in Liber O, and learn to rise on the planes according to the instruction given in the same book, though limiting his rising to the particular symbol whose god he wishes to invoke. Another method is to recite the name of the god as a mantra, or to recite a mantra suitable to the god. The third method is the assumption of the form of the god, by transmuting the astral body into his shape. This last method is really essential to all proper invocation, and cannot be too sedulously practiced. There are many other devices to aid invocation, so many that it is impossible to enumerate them, and the magician will be wise to busy himself in inventing new ones. Suppose the supreme invocation to consist of 20 or 30 barbarous names. Let him imagine these names to occupy sections of a vertical column, each double the length of the preceding one, and let him imagine that his consciousness ascends the column with each name. The mere multiplication will then produce a feeling of awe and bewilderment, which is the proper forerunner of ecstasy. In the essay Energized Enthusiasm is given a concise account of one of the classical methods of arousing Kundalini. This essay should be studied with care and determination. The earliest and truest Christians used what is in all essentials this method. See Fragments of a Faith Forgotten by G.R.S. Med. There is a real connection between what the vulgar call blasphemy and what they call immorality, in the fact that the Christian legend is merely an echo of a phallic rite. There is also a true and positive connection between the creative force of the macrocosm and that of the microcosm. For this reason, the latter must be made as pure and consecrated as the former. The puzzle for most people is how to do this. The study of nature is the key to that gate.